In the depths of Antarctica, 60 miles inland on the icy shelves, thousands of emperor penguins stand frozen in the dark, motionless, waiting. Each one cradles a single egg, an egg that would perish within minutes if it touched the ice. To survive, these penguins must remain in perfect stillness, guarding their eggs with determination that defies nature's harshest trials. For months, they endure extreme cold, relentless winds, and the uncertainty of survival. This shouldn't be possible. No bird, no mammal, no complex life should be able to survive for 4 months in the coldest place on Earth, incubating an egg in hurricane-force winds. But the emperor penguins choose to brave this life. This survival cycle begins in the depths of winter, where each penguin's journey becomes a testament to resilience. What's even more astonishing is that this is only one part of a larger cycle that spans thousands of miles across one of the most challenging ecosystems on the planet. In Antarctica, there is no soil, no trees, no land predators, and months of complete darkness. Yet every year, over 12 million penguins return to this harsh, frozen wilderness to follow the rhythm of life. They slide, walk, and swim across thousands of miles, returning to the same patch of ice where they left their mark the year before. This is not a story of cute birds in tuxedos. It's a story about the toughest survival routine on Earth. Birds that cannot fly in air, but glide through the ocean with precision. In this episode, we follow their yearly cycle, navigating the frozen continent that tries to kill them, the ocean that sustains them, and the colonies that both protect and exhaust them. This is the impossible life of penguins. Antarctica, though a land of snow and ice, is at its core a desert. It is the driest place on Earth, even though it's completely buried beneath ice. In the interior, only 2 inches of snow fall annually. What does fall doesn't melt. It stacks and compresses, eventually becoming part of an ice sheet that can be up to 2 meters thick. Winter temperatures regularly dip to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's not just the temperature that makes this environment so deadly. The winds here often race past 60 miles per hour, creating wind chills that plunge to minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit, where exposed skin freezes in under 2 minutes. At such temperatures, the human body would fail almost immediately. But the ice itself presents another danger. It's constantly shifting, grinding, buckling, and cracking as the seasons change. The fast ice, sea ice locked along the coast, can vanish from one year to the next. The pack ice, which drifts with the currents, is similarly unpredictable. Icebergs carve from glaciers and drift north, where warmer waters slowly melt them away. Nothing in this environment remains still. Yet, life breeds in this chaos. Antarctica is home to the largest penguin colonies on Earth. Emperor penguins gather in tens of thousands, facing an environment where life should fail. But against all odds, penguins thrive here, not by luck, but by an ancient evolutionary bargain. Every feather, every dive, every huddle is a compromise with the cold. They survive Antarctica's cruelty, but only by paying a price that no other creature is willing to afford. While most animals would flee to warmer climates or migrate toward more hospitable environments, emperor penguins do the opposite. They begin their breeding cycle in the heart of Antarctica's most hostile conditions. They march inland just as the sun sets for the long polar night and temperatures plummet to their yearly low. For most species, winter is something to endure. But For emperor penguins, it's the only time life can begin. Their strategy is harsh, yet precise. As the sea ice reaches its maximum extent, the ice sheet becomes stable enough to hold their massive colony. The platform must be flat, broad, and out of reach from ocean predators. If the penguins waited for summer, the ice would melt and break apart, sending their chicks into the open water. So they make the treacherous journey early, crossing the dark ice fields in long lines, heading for a breeding site that looks barren, an empty plain of ice that will remain frozen just long enough to raise a chick. Each female lays a single egg. One egg, one life. The handoff to the male must be flawless. If the egg touches the ice, even for a moment, it will freeze, and the penguin's future will be lost. After the eggs are transferred, the paths of the parents divide. The females return to the ocean to feed and build strength, while the males stay behind to incubate the eggs through the darkest and coldest months. This is where the real ordeal begins. For 4 months, the males stand in darkness, fasting while incubating the fragile eggs. Their metabolism slows to conserve energy, and their fat reserves shrink. Over the course of these months, their weight drops to nearly half of what it was when they first arrived. Meanwhile, the storms worsen. The male penguins must rely on a unique survival strategy, one that nature has perfected over millennia: the huddle. This isn't just a group of penguins standing together. It's a shifting dynamic structure. Penguins rotate positions in slow waves, ensuring no bird stays on the exposed edge for too long. There is no leader, no single bird guiding the group. The survival of the colony depends on constant, gentle movement. Inside the huddle, temperatures can rise to almost 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Just a few inches away, however, the wind may be minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The penguins survive in that narrow seam between warmth and the lethal cold. Each male keeps his egg balanced on his feet, hidden beneath a fold of skin. If it slips, it dies. So, the penguin must remain completely still, holding that position through intense wind, hunger, and the pressure of the huddle. Day after day, months pass, and as the darkness fades, the winds weaken. Slowly, the first faint sounds of newly hatched chicks can be heard from beneath the male's feathers. By now, the males are exhausted, barely standing. The females, still at sea, have been feeding and gaining strength for their return. When the females finally return, they perform a remarkable feat. They locate their partner and chick in a crowd of thousands, using a unique call that cuts through the noise. Once the chick is safely transferred, the males begin the exhausting trek back to the ocean. After more than 100 days without food, this final journey is one of the most arduous tests of survival. Not all males survive this trek. Those who do reach the water dive immediately, refueling in the brief Antarctic summer. Their hardest phase is finally over. But for the newly hatched chicks, born into the coldest place on Earth, the struggle is just beginning. The ice begins to loosen, and the ocean starts to wake up. The orbit shifts, the planet tilts, and slowly, almost reluctantly, the light begins to return. It begins as a thin blue line on the horizon, spreading into a pale glow that softens the ridge of ice. Day by day, the sun climbs higher. The cold doesn't disappear, but it loosens its grip. Shadows shorten, colors return. The continent begins to breathe again. As the light strengthens, the ice responds. What was once a continent-sized fortress begins to retreat, cracking along its edges, thinning from beneath. The sea reclaims what winter had stolen. With the melt, a quiet stirring begins beneath the surface. Antarctica's summer is not warm, but it is alive. For the first time in half a year, sunlight floods the water, almost feeding millions of microscopic plants known as phytoplankton. They multiply so quickly that the ocean turns green, visible from satellites. This explosion of life becomes the foundation of the entire Southern Ocean food web. Krill, tiny shrimp-like creatures, follow close behind, feeding on the blooming phytoplankton. Billions of krill form a crucial part of the ocean's ecosystem. The timing of this cycle is everything. The krill need the thaw, the predators need the krill, and the penguins need both. As the ocean awakens, the coastlines explode with activity. The first to arrive are the Adelie penguins, small, bold, and built for speed on land. They return to rocky shores that have been cleared of winter snow, building nests out of pebbles, one stone at a time. Further north, Gen 2 penguins arrive, having spent their winter feeding trips far out at sea. They prefer ice-free shores and will travel long distances to find them. Their breeding season is more flexible and responsive to the shifting environment. Chinstrap penguins appear in clusters on the islands and peninsulas where summer is short, but predictable. Their name comes from the thin black line under their beak, but their survival depends on precision. They time their return to coincide with the peak of krill abundance. If they arrive too early, the chicks starve. If they arrive too late, the adults do. Everything, every nest, every migration, every hatch is calibrated to the pulse of the ocean, and the ocean is quickly filling with life. Seals slip through patches of broken ice, hunting in waters that were frozen only weeks before. Leopard seals patrol the edge of the melt, waiting for young penguins to take their first plunge into the sea. These two timelines, the coastal summer and the inland winter, rarely aligned perfectly. This is one reason penguins across Antarctica live such different lives. Their strategies are shaped not just by biology, but by geography, and by the rhythm of ice and light that defines everything in their world. What happens next depends on where the penguins choose to live, and nowhere is that decision more dramatic than on the remote island chains, over 1,000 miles away from the continent. Here, summer doesn't just return, it explodes. This is South Georgia, a sub-Antarctic island that feels almost generous compared to the continent to the south. Here, the summers are longer, the waters richer, and the ocean floor rises in a way that brings nutrients upward, supporting one of the most productive marine environments on Earth. At the heart of this abundance is a king penguin colony, home to more than 500,000 birds. Their survival depends on stability. The ocean is accessible year-round, food remains plentiful, and the climate, while harsh, doesn't swing between extremes. But this stability is not without its challenges. In the absence of ice, king penguins adapt, and their strategies differ from those of the emperor penguins. King penguins breed on bare ground, with no ice to anchor them and no winter survival trials to endure. They raise their chicks slowly, over a span of 14 months, feeding them well and ensuring their survival. The colony moves like a living city, negotiating space and hunting together. But even here, predators follow. Skuas, petrels, seals, and orcas all keep a watchful eye, preying on vulnerable penguins. King penguins survive not by enduring the extreme cold, but by relying on numbers, mobility, and the abundant resources that the Southern Ocean provides. Antarctica may be ice-covered, but the outer reaches of the Southern Ocean tell a different story. On these islands, penguins build their lives in places that seem impossible. These smaller fragmented worlds are warmer, wetter, and more prone to change than the cold interior of Antarctica. The penguins adapt to whatever the edge throws at them, surviving by being flexible, quick, and resilient. In some areas, rockhopper penguins leap through violent surf and scale steep cliffs, while others, like the Magellanic penguins, dig burrows and raise their chicks underground. For the penguins of the Antarctic fringe, survival depends on agility and adaptability, traits that allow them to thrive where other species might falter. But the landscape is changing. The Antarctic Peninsula is warming faster than scientists expected, and the ice patterns are shifting. As the environment evolves, so must the penguins.